keep missing something really, really important. And that's exactly why we do these things. When people ask, like, why do we do these things? There's a few reasons. One of them is because close reading matters. Close reading matters. A lot of us are seeing this word right here, anxious, and then this thing about the future, and we're completely ignoring that word right there. Dependence. In this case here, anxious is an adjective. It's describing this. So if you take out the word, if I tell you, like, I am ferociously angry, and you take out the word ferocious, what do you say? Angry. I'm angry. And yet you understand what the sentiment of what I'm saying here, yes? And now, take out the word anxious, without dependence upon the future. So, true happiness is to enjoy the present without dependence upon the future. And this is going to completely change, this will radically change the understanding some of you are going to have about that. But that's why these things are important. Because it matters what a person says. It isn't enough for us to hear what someone says and go, well, here's what they mean to say. No, it's like with the quotes. I don't, you guys don't do this, but I correct students in the class when they say, well, what Seneca's trying to say is, he's not trying to say anything. He is saying something. We're trying to understand what he's saying. And more importantly, we're trying to apply it to our lives in some meaningful way. That's what it is. And so in this case here, when Seneca is saying true happiness is this thing. Is, remember? It's an equal sign now. He's telling us what true happiness is. True happiness is to enjoy the present without depending on the future. So to enjoy what time of our lives? Right now. Yeah. And whatever you're doing right now, we talked about before, it's not dependent on what happens tomorrow. Like whatever I'm doing today only matters if it pays off tomorrow. You're saying, no. A lot of things that you do in life are not going to pay off. Or at least they're not going to pay off the way that you think they're going to pay off. So, if you remember that thing I talked about the other day, I think it was in this class, right? The most important moment of your life? It was this class, right? Yeah. No? Some of you are saying yes, some of you are saying no. What's the most important moment of your life? So either I didn't talk about it or it had no impact. It's hard to tell which. What are the most important moments of your life? I'll ask you. Okay, so graduation.
The big right now.
Graduating. What else? When you're born. What else?
Your first steps.
Your steps as a baby. Maybe the first time you can walk. And you never look back since.
Learning how to learn, basically, like how to control your emotions, your anger and all that.
So the things that we learn, like control emotions, learning how to learn. What else?
Learning how to communicate.
How to communicate.
Your first car. First job.
Others? Come on, that's your life. The most important stuff. What's that? Learn how to ride a bike?
I hope that's here.
Bringing a life into earth.
Getting married.
I'm assuming you mean giving birth?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
No
I don't
worries.
know why I said it like that.
Oh, because there are other things you could do. Like, for example, if you're an AI researcher who's seeking out consciousness.
True.
No, I have a friend who's doing that. I have a friend who's like, I'm trying to give birth to intelligence. So I'm trying to bring a personality into the earth through synthetic media. He really talks about it this way. And he really doesn't mean it that way. Marriage. Now, what do all of these things have in common?
Future?
They're in the future. And what do all of these things, of course, have in common?
Past.
They're in the past. So what that means is that none of these things are real. Everything that exists over here exists in only one place. Imagination. Man, someday I'm going to graduate, and then I'm going to have a car, we're just going to get me my job, and like my first year I'm going to give birth, and I'm going to get married. It's going to be so wonderful. And some of y'all ain't going to graduate. And you're going to find yourself on the bus, driving over to an employment office, as you get the call from your doctor that the test came back and you can never have children, and now you think no one's ever going to want you. But similarly, by the way, all of these things that you've done already, they're in the past. They only exist in one place. And it's probably not even correct. Memories. They exist in your memories in the past. They're kind of real because they were in the world at one point. Like you were actually born at one point. You did take your first steps. This one might be the one exception. Gabby said this. This actually might be the one exception. So I'm going to go past it because it doesn't serve my overall argument. I'm going to claim it doesn't exist. Communication, getting that first job. The reason I put the job in the future is because some of you haven't gotten your first job yet. Some of you already have. So whichever place it is. Learning how to ride a bike, which, by the way, this is one of the most important things that you can possibly do. Because you learn something. You know, some really important things right here. And I wonder if this happened to you guys. If you learned how to ride a bike, someone took the training wheels off, and then they're like walking you, and you like were almost completely incognizant of the fact that someone was even holding the bike, because you were just so like jazzed about riding this bike, and all of a sudden you look back and you were by yourself doing it, and you didn't even realize it, but you know you thought that person was still helping you, but now it's just you. That's an incredibly important thing to happen in your life. This is life. That at some point maybe you're in some classroom and you're learning how to think, or you're learning how to communicate, or you're learning how to do biology, or you're learning how to do something in your medical class, your tech class, and all of a sudden it's just you and you're drawing blood by yourself. Just yesterday you had someone standing next to you, making sure that you didn't kill somebody. And then today it's like you're doing it by yourself. You're going without those training wheels. But the point is that all of these things are in the past. And all of these things over here only exist in your imagination. They might happen. They might not happen. But we spend so much time dreaming about how wonderful things are going to be. And we spend so much time thinking about how wonderful things used to be in the past. Or thinking about how terrible things were in the past and how awful our future is going to be. But we neglect this thing right here, which is the only real thing in your life. This moment. Because it's the only thing that's real. It's the only thing that actually exists. Imagination, memory, this moment right now. That means that whatever you're doing right now is the most important thing in your life. This is the most important moment of your life. I know you guys are excited by that. The fact that you're sitting in Scanlon's class is the most important thing in the world. And some of you right now are doing that going, oh my God, this is the most important thing in my life, being in here right now? And the answer to that question is yes. Some of you, if you already have your job, maybe you'll be at work later on today, and you'll be doing something that maybe you don't really like very much. And you'll be thinking like, I don't know, maybe like you're sweeping a floor going like, this is the most important moment of my life right now? Oh, no, it's not. Now, that does not mean it's where you want to be. Like, I imagine that all of us, well, not in this class, but most people can probably imagine someplace else they'd rather be. But I know you guys are all really, all day you dream about being here, and then once you're gone, you're like, oh, things were so much better when I was in Seattle. But for most people, we're imagining someplace else we'd rather be. How many of you have someplace else that you'd rather be right now? Good. Two honest people. Good. 3 honest people. You all fail. But most of us would probably rather be someplace else right now. And we can probably, if I mention that and I ask you to think about where else you'd rather be, I wonder where your thoughts go. I wonder to whom your thoughts go. If there's some place you'd rather be, or if there's just someone else you'd rather be with right now, it doesn't really matter where you were. If they were sitting next to you, you'd be fine being here as long as they were nearby. And some of you, as long as you're, it's about a place. You have like some memory of a place, and maybe there's a memory of a place with a person, and that would make it even better. Or better yet, a place that you haven't been to yet, with someone that you either want to go with, or even just an imaginary person who'd want to be there with. Some people sit there and they dream, they go, I just want to be on vacation with my family. Do you have a family? No. Do you have a significant other? Mm-mm. But you can imagine what that's going to be like. And then later on, maybe you'll be there. You can just plug in those faces into the imagination of the thing that you want to be, and now it's a memory. In other words, these are close to being real because they've happened. And again, we probably have filled in the blanks of some of these things. Like, it didn't happen quite this way. Like, you guys remember when you were born? Yeah, I imagine most of us just block that out of our memories for necessity. I don't want to think about that. Your first steps, riding a bike, communicate. I wish, do you ever remember riding a bike for the first time? You do? I hope you don't forget that. I hope you don't forget that. I have a memory of it, but I don't know if it's a real memory or if it's a fake memory. I remember who taught me how to do it. I remember exactly where I was. But that's the thing I hope you never forget, because it's that reminder that you don't have to have someone holding on to you, or you don't have to have the training wheels on. At one time, that seemed like the most dangerous thing in the world. Like, that was the biggest monumental task in the world, and it really wasn't, man. It's a thing that lots of people go through. And that means that you should keep it in mind, because that means that every task that you're undergoing right now, it might seem like the most monumental thing in the world. And it is the most monumental thing in your world right now, because it's the only thing that's real. But once you overcome it, and you will overcome it, it'll be a memory. And I hope similarly it's a memory, like riding a bike, of something that you've overcome, that you can remind yourself, I've overcome this thing, which means that whatever I'm facing right now is not overcomable. And whatever I'm facing, whatever I'm imagining that dragon to be in the future, because remember, this whole school year is about dragons. The whole year is about dragons. Whatever dragon I'm imagining in the future can be overcome as well. Why? Because I rode a bike. And if you don't know how to ride a bike, learn how to ride a bike. And if you don't know how to swim, learn how to swim. Because once you can do those things, there's at least 2 fewer things in the world to be afraid of. And that's what a lot of it is. We populate the unknown with our imaginations. We don't know what this future is going to be like, so we imagine it. We don't know what our worst fears are actually going to bring upon us, so we imagine it. But imagination is great. A lot of great songs come from imagination. But this is where real life happens. So that doesn't mean, by the way, that there isn't someplace else you'd rather be. All it means is that's how you make a meaningful life. You make the most of the moment that you're in. You don't live it like there is no tomorrow, because there is a tomorrow. 12.5 billion years the universe has been around. There's always been a tomorrow. So there's probably always going to be a tomorrow. But even if it doesn't come, at least you've got this moment right now. Whatever it is, be ever present. That's one of the bad things, by the way, is people complain about cell phones, and we don't really understand why it bothers us, because it bothers us a lot of times at a visceral level. We don't understand why. It's because it takes you out of the moment, it puts you someplace else. Now, maybe the thing is that it puts you in a different place, that you can appreciate that moment. Well, that's fine. Maybe we just misunderstand these things sometimes. But whatever this moment is right now, you make the most of it. You have to be here anyway, because you are here. And if you are here, if I forget to have to, if you are here, whether you want to be or not, if you are here, then make the most of it because you're already here. And then get ready for that tomorrow. But if you do this, imagine that. Imagine if you make every moment the most important moment of your life. Not that it is, but you make it that. How could you help but live a meaningful life at the end of all of it? How could your life not have been the most important life you possibly ever could have lived? And by the way, it won't even matter where you are. It won't even necessarily matter who you're with. It isn't the moment, it isn't even the people, it's not the circumstances, it's the you that makes the most of that makes it matter. And then, my God, anybody who's with you, you're going to be an absolute blessing to them because you're there with them. And then you're going to be a blessing to everybody around you. And you won't even be trying to be, you just will be. know? But if you're anxiously dependent on that future, what I'm doing right now isn't going to matter unless I do get married and have a baby and get a job and a car. And then if these things don't work out, it's like, well, that whole last year of my life was a waste. No, it wasn't. Unless you wasted it. But if instead you treat every moment as though it mattered, and you lived as though it mattered, because, by the way, it does. Whether you want to or not, it does matter. But once you can make it, once you can come to the understanding that it matters and treat it that way, and if it works out, great. If not, you still have the moment. And wherever you find yourself in life, that's where you should be. Because that's where you are. It's a self-feeding loop. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Wednesday.